building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast.
Hey, everybody. It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast. I'm J-Cal. That's DKM. We are the Alliance Guys. This is a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. We're trying to get more on top of that stuff. How are you, Mr. DKM? How you doing today? It's a sharp NWA shirt you're wearing there. You're muted, my friend.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right. Yeah, I understand some mask guy got it from me.
What's that?
A business card. Never seen one like that before, though.
Now you're quiet again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it just sound. I don't know if it's my. Maybe I need to just raise the volume on my speakers. I don't know.
Hold on. Let me go into settings. Let me go into audio. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How about there?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently the microphone was on audio.
Oh.
So it was adjusting my audio as it felt necessary. And apparently he didn't think I had anything good to say, so it decided to.
You know, the first few times I did the pre-party, when we first started doing all this, is like the camera had a microphone on it, and I didn't know that I had to select which microphone to use. I plugged in this microphone. I thought that'd be fine, and so the first few live streams that we used to do with the pre-party and also with the other Alliance guys, it was always using the camera's microphone, which if it was just me by myself, it wasn't that bad. But if you guys were on there, it was always crappy. So I had to fix that.
That happens. So what's going on in the world of the great and glorious California?
We just had a bunch of fires, and now we have a bunch of rain, and what's that?
I was obsessed with the fires when they got real big, and I would watch live coverage of them. And then, over time, of course, life goes on. You kind of do it. And I was thinking just the other day, I go, I wonder what ever happened with them. And I was turning to the news, and I go, well, new fire sparked up in California. I'm like,
yeah. What people don't understand is, first of all, Texas is the biggest state in the union. Alaska is a close number 2, I think. California is not a small state.
Oh no, it's huge.
And
Alaska's the biggest. Texas is second.
Apologies, corrections and retractions. So California being a relatively large state, if you hear California's on fire, well, where? Because again, California is such a big state. Where I live traditionally is more of a fire threat than it would be downtown Los Angeles. Like everything that was happening was kind of surreal because fires don't typically happen in Malibu. They don't typically happen in on the Sunset Strip. This is stuff that is very unnatural, right? And where I live, it's very deserty, very dry. We have practically in the desert, and so fires happen here all the time, and it's pretty regular, a regular thing. So for these fires to happen where they were happening, it was very very unusual. And then like just north of Los Angeles, it's kind of like the same thing. There's like a lot of wooded area, a lot of desert type kind of environment. So that's not unusual. But like if I heard that San Francisco was on fire, I'd be freaking out because that's not a place that typically gets fires. If you told me San Diego was on fire again, I'd be like, well, that's weird because that's an area that isn't climately based on the climate. They don't typically get brush fires like that, but where I live, we typically do. So it's weird.
You know, if you heard Detroit or Philadelphia was on fire, you wouldn't think anything of it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, all I could think of was when watching, especially when it went through some of the neighborhoods, and I kept thinking of comic books because, you know, if you read comic books, either Metropolis or Gotham or Central City, well, about all one of the major cities in like the DC comic world, you know, is on fire. You know, once a year. And it was just like, and you kind of go, oh, yeah, that never happens in the real world. And that was one of the reasons why I was always so interested in, like, well, how close is it to downtown?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, when it was just, you know, 2 blocks from Hollywood Boulevard, when it was literally within, I think it was like 6-7 miles of the outskirts of downtown at one point, you know, a small portion of it and stuff like that. It was very freaky to me. It was like, this, you know, what's going on in this world? that's the case. Again, you know, you hear Detroit or Philadelphia, you kind of go, yeah, well, but.
Well, and the real crazy thing about it is, like you said, it doesn't happen in that area. And, you know, like I saw footage of them down on like the Sunset Strip, literally a dozer, and it looked very post-apocalyptic, just pushing cars so that they can make room for the fire engines that were going into the areas that were on fire. And it was just very surreal. There was even a part where I was watching the news and Steve Guttenberg was up in the Hollywood Hills talking about how his friends were still up there and he was concerned about them. And he was like, hey, if you're leaving, leave the keys to your vehicle inside your car so we can move it so that we can bring the fire trucks in. I'm like, Steve Guttenberg, Police Academy Steve Guttenberg, 3 men and a little lady Steve Guttenberg, 3 men and a baby Steve Guttenberg. And I thought that was very surreal. And the news was like, you could tell that the reporter was like a millennial or even maybe the one after millennial, the Gen Z, because like he didn't know who he was speaking to. And then he's like, yeah, I'm Steve Guttenberg. And they're like, okay. And the conversation kept going. And then you could hear probably someone got in his ear and he's like, oh, you're the actor, Steve Guttenberg. So it was kind of wild.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on the issue, but just to show how you never know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I came into the conversation late, but they were telling a story about I guess a Hollywood couple, and they were saying how basically the fire wiped them out. Most of their value, most of their riches were in the house and artwork and other stuff, and they were cash poor because I guess she had done a movie that, you know, or they had backed a movie she had done or something that had flopped. And, you know, they were like, this is really devastating to us. I mean, you know, these rich, you know, what you think of these rich Hollywood stars were basically going to be starting from zero.
Yeah.
With zero.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what's going on in LA. Thankfully, I'm not in LA. They just made a trade with your Mavericks. The Lakers got I can't even pretend to pronounce that guy's name. I'm not a big NBA guy. I used to be. I used to really like the NBA. Yeah, Luka. And I haven't watched the NBA in such a long time that I don't really have even a rooting interest at this point. But you know, hey, hooray for the Lakers! Going to go back to the finals again.
I haven't really followed basketballs here locally since Nagurski retired, and
You say
the
Ligursky or Nowinski?
Nowinski. Sorry, I think I combined the two.
I thought you said Ligursky. I'm like, well,
I
Ligursky
think I said Nagurski.
Nagurski.
But,
There you go.
Yes, no, sorry. I'm sleep deprived, like like the three of us typically are.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking to the fans out there. Anyway, yeah, the people here are taking it very, very, very hard. And apparently, for those who don't know, Mark Cuban is only a minority owner in the Mavericks now.
Yeah, he sold a part of it.
Oh, he's sold like most of it, and he doesn't run it. He hasn't run it for like 2 or 3 years. Basically, by the time they told us what had happened, he had already been out of it for a year.
Wow.
And which is why everybody was wondering why he had been so quiet. And so, anyway, apparently the GM kind of concocted this whole thing by himself, never told Kid, the coach.
Wow.
Only told the owners kind of like at the last moment. No one told Luka. And it was just one of those things. And
I guess Luka just bought a mansion in Texas and AD just bought a mansion in LA. So maybe they could switch or something.
maybe. And so it's, it's all we know is it better work out, because if it doesn't, there's going to be hell to pay around here. Apparently the GM felt like he wasn't keeping himself in good shape, and that's why he kept getting injured.
You're about to say something, Jaden?
His name is Luca. He lives on the second floor.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
I have no idea what that means.
Y'all know the song My Name is Luca?
No.
My name is Luca. I lived on the second floor.
I love Stairs from You. Yes, I think you've seen me before. It's a song about abuse.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what you learn later is that Luca is based on a kid she knew in an apartment complex that she lived in one time, but the story is actually her story.
Oh.
She was
this?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
I've never heard of this song before. You're breaking news to me here.
You probably have. It was a late 80s song, if I remember. Maybe in the early 90s. I think it was late 80s, though.
Susan Vega.
Yeah.
The only Vega song I know is Lou Bega, and he says something like, a little bit of Monica on my mind.
It's Vega, I think, with a V.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Hey, we're going to get to Power real quick. We're gonna do Power first this week.
Hey, I tried, guys. Sorry.
But I want to say what's up to everyone in the chat real quick. We do have a Willie Bowen sighting. Not only a Willie Bowen sighting, but a Willie Bowen Tyrus joke of the day. He says, hey, guys, Tyrus has an intergender match. Tyrus versus Jenny Craig. You know who the real winner is? Tyson, because they're going to sell a lot of chicken. I added that part. Luther says, that's the only way I would watch Willie. It would be a hate watch or a weight watch. that one's good. Lou's a funny guy. Jaden, you've met Lou. DK, yeah. You have not. You both would, I think you both, well, I mean, Jaden, you did meet him. He's a funny guy. I like that, Lou.
He's a funny guy. He's just one wild and crazy guy.
Wild and crazy guy.
No, you didn't say it right.
I can't do it. Go ahead, Jaden.
What, me? He's a one wild and crazy guy. Yeah.
No, you still didn't say it right. Come on.
What is it?
Classic Steve Martin. It's because I'm a wild and crazy guy. Come on.
I did that on purpose so you would do it.
Do it again.
It wasn't. Because I'm a wild and crazy guy. Which, by the way, him and Dan Aykroyd did it as a pair on Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
Please make that a short.
No, it's done. Done deal. Done deal.
A GIF, a short, all of it.
Our pal Jeremy says,
Hey,
don't
Jay.
forget. Yeah.
Just a reminder, I can wipe out your website. So
Go change those passwords immediately. Don't forget that like, share, and after the stream, leave a comment. It all helps with Al Gore's rhythm. Obviously, DK doesn't need any help with his rhythm. You just saw it.
Al Gore's always needed help with his rhythm.
And the programming note, real quick, the other Alliance guys will be taking a sabbatical for Super Bowl Sunday. So if you had plans to watch the other Alliance guys this Sunday, scrap them. Go watch football instead. That's what the Canadians are doing. That's what the Coloradoans are doing. And I think Dave Scooby, I think he lives in Maryland. So maybe that's what he's doing too.
Yeah, go watch the Chiefs beat the Eagles.
I have best friends on both sides who are rooting opposites. So I don't have any rooting interest in this game. I might not even watch it. That's how much I care about football.
Jay, you communist, you.
I prefer the term pinko.
Jay, you ignorant slut.
Jay, yeah, ignorance.
SNL's coming up on their 50th anniversary. You guys have pulled out 2 bits already.
Well, So, yeah. Now, I don't really have a dog in the fights. The only reason I might pull for Kansas City is because I like Andy Reid, and of course, Reid's a former Philadelphia coach. Some people Phelps got mistreated there, so.
Our boy Lou says he's funny, haha, not funny, hee hee. Have you guys been checking out Alliance Late Night? Our guy Rosville. I've been sharing some of his content on the YouTube page. Good, insightful stuff, and I say that mostly because a lot of his opinions are similar to mine. I think it was last week, he was talking about the hardest working champions in the NWA. Jeremiah Plunkett. You're not a champion, nor do you work for the NWA
Anymore.
I got belts.
You do got belts.
When do you defend them?
What?
When do you defend them?
Oh, all the time, all around the world.
Yes. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and everything.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. I defend there a lot.
Yes.
Just because you're pinning people's shoulders to the ground doesn't mean you're wrestling. Figure Four says Jaden just watched the first match of the posting of the match from the church. Thought the woman did a good job. Yeah, I was watching that too. And Valerie Vermin is a future superstar in the making. I mean, I get it. She's the World Wrestling Grand Prix Women's Champion, and that is an accomplishment in and of itself. But I feel like Valerie Vermin is a star on the rise for sure. And Zoe, I can't remember her name.
Cannon.
Zoe Cannon.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's a Cannon event.
She was great too. Both of them I really enjoyed that match, and I didn't leave any distasteful comments in the comment section.
Yeah, I don't know why I get stuck doing the YouTube stuff, but I had to delete a couple of them already. There is actually the whole match is up there that was edited. The rest of them, unfortunately, is just, if you watch the 2-parters, it's just the hand cam footage. The footage was thought to be gone and destroyed. It was an accidental erasure, and for some reason, it wasn't able to get back. But at least they found that on one of the flash cards? No, memory cards.
Yeah, flash drive.
Flash card. It was on a drive. It was on a card. It was on one of the flash cards for the camera. So that's why you can see some of that. There will be some news about that church too soon. Actually, probably tonight.
That's great. All right, let's get to this week's Power. I know, Jaden, that you do not partake, you do not watch, but we'll ask for your comments as we get to them. And the reason being is, first and foremost, we built our brand with the NWA in mind. This whole alliance was always meant to cover the National Wrestling Alliance, and I want to do a little bit more of that. And I feel like by not talking about Power, we're doing a disservice. So let's go ahead and kick it off with Tuesday night's episode. This is the new season of Power. It kicked off the signature live event, Looks at Kill, that was filmed live in the Dothan Civic Center. The Civic Center in Dothan has been a godsend for the NWA because it gives the NWA the look and feel of a real full-time pro wrestling organization. I mean, they have great production there, but the aesthetics with the crowd, and it's always a loud crowd, a full crowd. They went there last year for Hard Times number 4, and based on that drawing of that audience, that crowd, they had booked almost immediately, and I'm talking like they were flyering events. Let me try that again. They were flyering for Looks at Kill, an event in December. They started handing out flyers back in March. That's how much that Dothan Civic Center made the NWA look good, and they showed up for the NWA. And this taping wasn't much different. There was a great sellout crowd. It looks good on video. If I was going to shop the NWA to a network, it would be the footage, some of the footage that was filmed on this episode of Power that I would use, because it really makes the NWA look like it's in the same league as like a NXT or an MLW or even some of the AEW Ring of Honor stuff. So the first match we get was Sam Stackhouse and Eric Smalls as the team now known as Size Matters. They take on the Colognes, who we've seen a few times already in the NWA. I'm not sure when Stackhouse and Smalls were made a tag team. I don't think we've seen Sam Stackhouse in the NWA at all. There's no real explanation to why he just showed up and why he's teaming with Eric Smalls.
Well, he came out and saved Smalls when he was in that cage.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was trying to put that together, and I couldn't remember if he had showed up before. So, okay. So, all right. So I stand corrected. Now, if you're not familiar with Sam Stackhouse, he's an Oklahoma guy. And outside of a couple dates with Game Changer Wrestling, he hasn't really made it to that top level yet. Game Changer's kind of like the highest spot he's gotten so far. So for him being in the NWA is kind of a big deal. I did a little bit more research on Eric Smalls, who's been wrestling for quite some time now, who he mostly, again, wrestles in Michigan and Ohio. He's done some events with Micromania and the Micro Championship Wrestling, and has kind of had an ongoing feud with Swoggle from the WWE. So, Smalls was introduced to the NWA. First as just this little person who was punching people in the balls. Later, he befriended Murdoch's, the tag team champions. He's teamed with them a few times, and he's had a few matches here and there in the NWA. So this tag team taking on Epico and Primo, of course, Joe Galley calls the Colognes one of the most decorated tag teams in all of pro wrestling. And that made me stop and pause and think, really? I barely remember their WWE run, and I went and looked up on Cage Match, and their tag team title history is having a run with the Coastal Championship Wrestling tag team titles. So I kind of like, it's kind of a weird way to call yourself a highly decorated tag team champions when really the two titles, two sets of belts, and it wasn't concurrently. It wasn't even around the same time. And they're the Colognes. You would think that they would have maybe held the tag titles for, the Universal Wrestling Association down there in Puerto Rico.
World Wrestling Council.
Excuse me, you're right. World Wrestling Council. IWA Puerto Rico is the International Wrestling Association, and the UWA, I think, is a Mexican promotion.
I think what they might be doing is conflating them also with a tag team called the Colognes, which was Carlito and Primo.
Okay.
Now, Carlito and Primo held the World Wrestling Council Tag Team Championships once, the World Tag Team Championship in WWE once, and the WWE Tag Team Championship once. And were also in Puerto Rico named Tag Team of the Year.
Well, Epico and Primo have only held those two sets of titles. So again, hyperbole isn't wasted on me. I understand that you're trying to build up these guys, and obviously, look, this is one of the things that I've been pointing out week in, week out. Wins and losses should matter, and I don't care who's in front of you. A victory is still one more notch building you up to a title match. So hopefully, maybe we'll see them at some point step into that realm, maybe challenging for either the U.S. or the World Tag Titles. But at least they're kind of building a case for it. The match starts off with Primo and Smalls. Primo doesn't take Smalls seriously at all, and I probably wouldn't either. Smalls nearly punches Primo right in the groin, the signature move that made famous on his debut. He shoves Smalls to the ground. Smalls tags in Stackhouse. Galley says he's damn near 500 pounds. His cage match says 340. Look, I don't know. I've never seen him up close and personal. He's a big guy, and they kept talking about how quick he was in the ring. He brutalized Primo. Primo tags in, Stackhouse brutalizes Primo, then tags into Smalls, who gets a Bronco Buster, and the duo of Smalls and Stackhouse continue to torment the cousins Primo and Epico. As Stackhouse gets back in the ring, he takes control of the match again. Goes for an ill-advised somersault senton, but he misses completely. No pull in that water at all. And it was actually really, for as agile as Galley made it sound like, it was really sloppy and very dangerous looking. And that took Stackhouse out of the match. Then with an assisted backstabber on Smalls, the Clones get the 3 count. Again, I try to take this as serious as possible, even though Billy doesn't. And look, I'm happy that the Clones won. I don't think you could have done. If the Clones lost this match, I think at that point you just let them leave the NWA, because I don't think there's any point in keeping them around. At least getting a victory is a good way to kind of position them for a title match. I'll admit it, Eric Smalls got a huge pop from the fans. The fans liked him, and he was about as tall as most of the kids sitting around ringside. But again, I don't understand why you would book a match like this. And I Jaden has helped out with the booking in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, as well as other wrestling promotions. DKM is getting ready to take over the booking for IHWE. And I would ask both of you guys, okay, Eric Smalls is popular, and maybe he moves merch. We've seen that the YouTube numbers have popped with him in the thumbnail. Is there a way that you can justify putting a little person in your wrestling ring and trying to make it work?
May I start this one?
Yeah, go please.
I could see the benefit of having a midget wrestler. A midget wrestler is great if you have a manager, and the manager's kind of an annoying Weasley little guy, and you bring in the midget wrestler to get revenge. That can be used. The kids would love that. It's entertaining. It's just believable enough if the wimpy manager gets his butt kicked by the little midget, and maybe the manager brings in another midget just to help even the score by 1.5 against half or something like that. But that's about as much as I could see into that. Other than that, it's a special attraction. You bring in a midget match every once in a great while just as something different. Again, I could see that being something as a unique, especially on like an event that has like a lot of kids or something like that. But as a regular wrestler teaming with a overweight wrestler as a serious tag team, that's not good for wrestling.
DK, what were your thoughts on that?
I rated the whole show, I think, a D, and it was barely a D, not an F, almost on this whole thing. Jaden's right. You have Percy Pringle, Jim Cornette, somebody like that. You bring in kind of a tough guy midget wrestler who they make fun of and everything like that. And then the, little midget, probably even still with help of the, Face. regular wrestler, has fun with them. Beats up the manager. Okay. Or you bring in the occasional guest midget for them to wrestle or something like that. Why they treat Smalls as put him in matches with normal wrestlers and then expect me to take it how do I take the clone seriously after this?
I'll say this, and just to answer, I know that was a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it anyways.
No, it wasn't. I'm serious. How am I supposed to take him seriously?
I'll say this, that Smalls did not kick out of their finish. Smalls caused minor damage in the ring. Look, I think a kid doing a Bronco Buster on me would probably not be my most comfortable thing ever. And they bill Smalls weighing at 135 pounds. I don't know if that's true or not. He is a little person, and I'm sure he does work out. I'm sure he has some bulk to him. So I could see where, if I'm suspending belief about the whole thing of pro wrestling, I could see where that wouldn't feel comfortable either. But it wasn't like he got some huge offense on these guys. It wasn't like he was running the show. Stackhouse, who is quite literally a stacked house, being 2 foot taller than Smalls and probably 400 pounds heavier than him, I could see where that guy was causing most of the damage in the match. So I don't feel like that killed it. With Smalls' interaction, I don't feel like that killed the Colones. And the Colones still got the victory, and they still, they were able to get that match. I mean, essentially, it was kind of like a 2-on-1 handicap match, if we're being honest. And again, I'm not Smalls. He's over. I wish that they would do stuff with Smalls in a way that would make it where I could celebrate him. Like, okay, let's do some more mini wrestling. Let's do some little people. There's a lot of talented little people out there in wrestling. There's at least a dozen. Okay, maybe not a dozen, but at least 3 or 4 wrestling promotions that tour my area, like the Micromania, the Midget Wrestling, the Dwarfinators. I mean, there's so many different wrestling promotions that come in and out of Southern California with little people. I'm all right with you putting on matches that feature the little people. I don't think you're using Smalls to his best advantage by putting him in a match with regular-sized people.
In other words, basically, to summarize everything, you're killing us, Smalls.
Yeah, let me respond to that. Even though, first of all, the Clones are supposed to be this world-class tag team. Remember, they told me they were.
Yeah.
All right. Well, who's Sam Stackhouse?
Okay, fair point.
I saw him once come in, save Smalls. And now he's a tag team. Now they're a tag team. So who's Sam Stackhouse? Don't know. He hasn't gone over. He hasn't done anything. I mean, I know who he was because he's wrestled here. I've seen him live. I've taken pictures of him. He was the last IHW champion. Not IHWE, IHW.
There's a difference.
Yes. So I'm familiar with him, but even with me being familiar with him, who is he in this greater thing? Why did this tag team? I mean, this isn't like what was posted on Discord where we saw what was it, Bobo Brazil take on 2 people, and you would see Bruiser Brody take on 2 people sometime, and of course they were always small guys, and then Ronnie Garvin used to wrestle handicap matches when he was the one-man gang, Ronnie Garvin. And fine, take offense, leave. And
I'm trying to turn on the fan. It got hot in here all of a sudden.
Yeah, that does happen with all the computers and stuff. But so who's Sam Stackhouse? So here's this guy that I don't know who is. I'm going to be polite here. Is a very large individual, not in what most would consider a healthy way. And look, I have no room to talk about things like that, but they haven't done anything to show me that he by himself should be able to handle, not just handle, but brutalize a world-class tag team. And so he gets his moves in. He tags in the little person. The little person is now getting offensive moves in. Like, didn't he even do a leg drop or something?
Yeah, he did like some sort of weird, like, tried to do like a head spin and messed that up and then dropped a leg drop. Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and that took a while. And so, and they're selling it not like, man, I'm already hurt, and this little guy, now landing on top of me like an annoying fly. I mean, he's selling it like, oh man, I've been devastated by this little leg drop. And it's just like, so yeah, now I'm supposed to take the clone seriously. I mean, they weren't booked overly seriously in WWE to begin with, especially when they had the mask. And everybody knew who they were anyway, and even the ring announcers basically said who they were. And so this is no longer a world-class tag team. This is a tag team that got a victory over a midget and a big, huge guy that took far too long to climb to the second rope and execute a sloppy belly flop.
Oh man, that was really bad.
It was bad. And look, I've seen him move before, and he can move, and he does have skill, but they're not showing it. So who did this match get over?
Well, I mean, like at the end of the day, the Clone still got the victory, and I know what you're gonna say, but like to what end and
yeah.
Against who? But I just I don't like the booking, right? Let's make it perfectly clear. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of the whole mixed, regular person, little person, and regular person sounds like a diminutive. It doesn't sound like a nice word, but I don't like it. I don't like the tag team. I don't like the idea. I'm not a huge fan of intergender wrestling either. These are not my cups of tea. I don't know who this is booked for. I don't know who's saying, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to watch when I turned on the wrestling. So I want to make that perfectly clear. But at the end of the day, we did get a victory for the Colognes, and the whether you win by whether you win by an inch or a mile, a victory is a victory, and each victory leads you to a title match, and that's the only way I could really justify it in my head. Again, I did not ask for that match. I did not care for that match. I do not celebrate that match. But at the end of the day, we are going to have the Colognes with one more victory in their pocket, and that's something that I've been preaching for week after week. Is I want wins and losses to matter, and if the NWA is going to make some victories here for the Colognes before they put them in a match with the Murdochs or the Country Gentlemen or whatever, then I'm okay with that.
Well, my last word on it is that win didn't matter.
Okay. So then the next matchup that we had for the show, well, then we get a Mims promo, and Black G's is not in attendance, and we find out later from Danny Deals that he was not cleared to manage. And I mean, storyline wise, although it was a few weeks ago, the last time we saw G's, Baron Von Storm had him in the claw, and it was pretty intense. Now, I know, wrestling is wrestling, but whatever. Black G's wasn't there. They said he wasn't cleared to manage. And so this was a solo Mims promo. And this is what I 100% wanted to see out of Mims. Serious, smart, very just simple promo. And, Black G's, yeah, he probably would have made the promo better, right? But I feel like it was a good promo where Mims said exactly what he needed to. I get paid to beat people up and to win matches, and that's what he was here for. So I really thought this was a good opportunity for Mims to get a spotlight, and I think he did a very more than adequate job. DK, you're muted, but what did you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed the promo. In fact, it was at a level that it's almost like, well, maybe he's not going to need G's for too long.
Well, and I'm thinking maybe that's a byproduct of G's being in his corner, right? Like maybe some of that is rubbing off on him. And, and I don't really know how that works, but, it's more than a couple years ago now, but about 15 years ago, I was in this dumpy little wrestling venue for a wrestling promotion called Mach 1, and they put together a match that featured two future superstars in the industry today, and they formed a tag team with it was like Joey Ryan and Sean Ricker teaming against Sam. Oh, not Sam. That's his real name. Whatever, some other guy and Brian Cage. And midway through the match, Ricker and Cage left, beat up both Joey Ryan and the other guy, and started tag teaming. And they were calling them Natural Selection. I thought, well, this is great. Natural Selection's amazing. And then they brought Percy Pringle in to manage him. And I even told Dave Marquez, why are you wasting money on bringing in Percy Pringle? Like, that's a fly-in. You're paying to fly in a manager? Like, what? How much value can a manager bring? And then I saw him at a taping, and I thought, oh, shit, I get it. I get the value that Percy Pringle brings. And I'm not saying that Percy Pringle is the reason why that Eli Drake is a star, LA Knight is a star, and I'm not saying that he's the reason why Brian Cage is a star, but I'm saying he certainly helped those guys grow in that short amount of time. And I feel like that's what G's has done for Mims. I could be wrong, but this promo for Mims was money. Jaden, you're somebody who has worked as a manager in the past. Do you feel like you rub off on your talents when you were a manager?
I know my Heat did. I brought attention to them because they were the talent, but I also made sure that I helped them draw money because. Well, listen, all right, I'll use the sensational one. The sensational one can talk really, 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 really well.
Yeah.
And his gimmick being 400 pounds counting his ego when he was.
Whoa. Shit. We lost him. I hope he's not just talking into his phone right now.
Probably.
We'll move on, but if Jaden jumps back on, we'll talk about that promo. Well, here he is.
Are you guys
Jaden,
there? All right. One problem with a screen with a beveled edge is it's just the slightest little touch sometimes will make you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway, the object was to make them hated, to draw attention to them. Most of the wrestlers I managed could actually talk for themselves. So I wasn't needed to talk, but I was needed, I think, to get the story around and to help them draw money and help them be what they were today. I was a compliment to them more than a necessity to them. A lot of them, they said they didn't really need me to talk, but I was able to do so anyway and add to it.
Yeah.
But some wrestlers need that extra little bit. And one of the things too is when you get an inexperienced wrestler, somebody who hasn't necessarily been to the big time, somebody who has can impart with you tons of knowledge and subtle little things that you just don't normally see. And one of the other advantages of the manager is if something's not right, you can somehow get talk to them and to your wrestler to get them back where they need to be, and then distract the ref so they can share that information to the wrestlers to kind of get that match back on track, or to switch it around altogether if you see something as a manager they may not see in the ring, because a lot of times wrestlers in the ring just worry about what's going on there, don't pay attention like they used to the outside. You can get that word out there and able to grow onto that and build onto that and let them know how to pivot a little bit to get the most out of that audience or match.
So I guess what this all comes down to is, do you think that in the short time that G's has been managing Mims, that it's kind of, you've seen Mims grow from that, or am I just imagining things?
I haven't seen enough Mims to give an honest opinion about it, so I can't really be that. I don't watch the NWA a lot. G's Sabian, I forget his first name, Darnell.
Yeah.
he's been around for a while, and he's seen a lot. And he's been in a lot of companies. He's never been the big star, neither height wise or he thought he was the biggest star in a company most of the time, but he's never been the biggest star.
Yeah.
Try not to fight that hot. Thanks, DK. But he's definitely been around, and the one thing is he does have a good look to him. I always called him, like, one of the things we used to call him around this area was the jacked up Gary Coleman.
Yeah, I see that.
But that look is something that could add to the presentation for a wrestler. So I think that does add something. And again, one thing G's can do is he can talk. And sometimes all a wrestler needs is confidence. If you have somebody who gives them confidence to talk, then maybe that's what Mims has now. What do you say, DK?
Yeah, I mean, I think just hanging around him, if you can, if nothing else, if you just watch and pay attention, then I think that can be your advantage. And, you know, the way young guys used to learn is someone said on the car rides, they were in the back of the car and you just shut up and you listen to the veterans talk. And I think in this, if if Mims would kind of because G's would normally talk first. So, you let G's talk and then you want to add on to what he's just said. And you don't want to do it in a way that takes away from what he just said. So I think that's what we saw when we saw Mims do the promo. We saw him do a promo that was very much like what he had been doing after G's had spoke. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's proved. Now, about the match.
Now, the match, I was one of the first people to say, like, look, I like Mr. Grimm as a talent, and I think it's going to be a good match. I hate the fact that he got a title match without as much as even getting one pinfall victory in the NWA. But this was a really good match. And I felt like Mr. Grimm came with his working boots. He did a great job of selling. He did a good job, as far as I'm concerned, of putting over Mims. But just getting to it, when Grims comes out, he does not get much of a reaction from the crowd, and that doesn't surprise me. This is his first time in Dothan, as far as I know. First time with the NWA in Dothan, that's for sure. The Dothan crowd really reacts to Mims, which is interesting to note because even the last time Mims was there, he threw poor what was his name? His old tag team partner. He threw him through a cage. So it was kind of interesting that the fans reacted positively to Mims, but maybe they just remember him and he's a champion, so why not?
Draper.
Yeah, that's it. Dak Draper. That's right. Thank you. Mims really did not look out of place in this match. He looked like a veteran. Oddly enough, I was on remember the Pope, former NWA TV champion, the Pope.
The Pope.
I was on one of his live streams today. He was being interviewed, and the person who was interviewing them asked wrestlers he would like to wrestle. And I said, come back to the NWA and wrestle Mims for the national title. And before they got to that, Pope was talking about his mentorship that he received from Mark Henry and how much Mark Henry meant to Pope as a wrestler, and then flipped it around. And then the Pope said, oh, yeah, Mims. Now, that's the exact relationship I had with Mark Henry, but in reverse. And I kind of wish Pope would have still been around to help have mentored Mims a little bit longer. But Mims felt like he was in the right spot in the right moment. He didn't look, sometimes somebody can be put into a spotlight and kind of shrivel up a little bit. I feel like Mims has really taken a lot of steps, not only in his presentation and his look, but his abilities in the ring. I mean, he looked good. And the fact that, there's not a lot of guys that Mims steps into the ring with that are much bigger than him. And Grimes is about the same size, but a lot heavier. So when Mims tosses him around like he's a much smaller man, it's very impressive because, again, you can see Grims is a big guy. Grims did get a positive reaction when he did a double leg takedown on Mims. He got a near fall with a roll up, but as soon as both of the men were to their feet, Mims gets that really big belly to back suplex, and he kind of takes control. It dominates most of the rest of the match. He even works a bear hug, which is kind of strange because typically you see the bear hug on a smaller guy, not usually a bigger guy. Grimm's is bigger than Mims, and it's weird that their names rhyme, but Grimm's and Mims, Mims had the bear hug on Grimm's and kind of worked over the back, and that would play a role later when Grimm's got on the offense. He was unable to connect as intensely as some of the moves he has done in the past. After Grimm's does escape that bear hug, he does connect with a few high impact moves, but each time you can see it taking its toll on Grimm's. He even connects with a high avalanche splash into the corner, a la King Kong Bundy or Sting. It's usually more impressive when it's a big guy, to me anyways. He follows that up with a flying neck breaker, but only gets a 2 count, just proving how tough Mims is in this match. A lot of solid offense. Then he also went to connect with a move that took way too long into the outside. And Matt might be my only problem with this match is that we just saw a big man go to the outside on the top rope and try to do a high-risk maneuver, and it didn't work out for him, and it didn't work out for Grimm's either. He went for a 450 splash. Again, missed it. Then Mims connected with a Tyrus-inspired heart punch. They even called it the Nuff Said heart punch. And then finishes with a big, strong slam. And I thought this was a real solid victory for Mims. DK, you're muted, but what did you think?
Well, you liked it more than I did.
Okay.
In isolation, like if I knew nothing about this match and someone just said, here, watch this from bell to bell, I would have said, hey, that's pretty good. There are 2 or 3 botches in it, but, it was pretty good. Wouldn't have had any major thing. If you'd asked me, well, what, where would you think this was, like on the, on the card, I would have said, that probably would have been like a good second match, third or something like that. If you said, would you think there was a title involved in it? I would have said, well, no, not really. I go, unless it was like, a third tier title, like the TV title or something like that. And if you'd said, would you believe that was a national title match, the second most prestigious title in the thing, I would have said no. And I go, I didn't. And so there's my issue. I see the alliance with Late Night said he felt like timing or spot calling was off for about a third of the match. And I don't know that it was a third or a third total through, but I would agree with that statement. The one I remember the most was when I think it was Grimm's came off the rope and ducked a clothesline, but nobody threw it. Nobody threw the clothesline. And it was like, okay.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, you had to be looking at the right moment, but it was just like a little bit weird. And it was just like, okay. And then he kind of came off the other rope, and I don't know if it was shoulder tackle or what. But yeah, something was missed. I think Mims was expecting a shoulder tackle, and I think Grimm was expecting a clothesline or to be ducking a clothesline. But yeah, was the match good? Sure, the match was good for what it was. Would I say, hey, here's an example of your top secondary, your second most prestigious title in the organization, champion and challenger? I'd go, no, I don't think so. And it's nothing against either man specifically. Even with history, like we're talking about, Grimm's hasn't won a match, so we're not sure why he's getting a national title shot. And Mims hasn't had the kind of victories that he needs. He won the title in a very funky way. And it was just like, if you're going to be doing this now, you need to get Mims taking on people who we think have a chance of beating him and still winning in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
Mims has shown that he can play a dominant wrestler.
Yeah.
And he showed it in this match. And I think with the right, again, with what do you like to say? Iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, or whatever some metal sharpens itself.
Steel sharpens steel, yeah.
So, I mean, I think we could see that. I think Mims, who I love, just as a wrestler, as a guy that we've had on this cast and everything like that, put him in the matches with upper mid-card guys and some upper card guys and let him perform well. And, let him show what he can do. Let them lead him to a good match, and then let him develop. He has everything that's necessary. Grimm is probably somebody who, again, not next week, but maybe in a couple of years, if he's still around or whatever, you could kind of do that same path, get him to where maybe he gets a couple of victories and suddenly that TV title's in, a reasonable goal or whatever. But isolated, good match. National heavyweight championship match? I would expect more.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Matt, our friend Overmetal, says Burchill should have been on commentary here. Mims Reign has no feuds, and Burchill is the closest. I mean, that's a byproduct of everyone in the NWA right now. There is no ongoing feud. When there is one, it seems to be over dumb reasons, and it never really continues on the path that it should. I would have zero problem with Mims or with Burchill being on commentary here if he's still stalking Mims, but I feel like the direction they're going with Burchill now is with Mondo, and I don't think we'll see either one of them playing a role towards that national title for the interim. The next thing we get is another promo backstage with Kyle Davis, and sadly enough, this might be the last time we see Ella Envy cut a promo in the NWA. She's really good, and I think good on her to go out and test the waters to see if there's interest, to see if anyone is willing to put her on a higher platform. But she kills it in the promo. She definitely does the mean girl gimmick like no one else. Puts Kyle in his place right away, goes over her resume, and then says that Kenzie Paige is only champion because of Ella Envy. And I thought that was really, really good. And Miss Star punctuates that they're the tag team champions for a reason. And it was just a really good little quick promo to hype up the match for next week. And again, thought it was good. DK, any points you want to add?
What's interesting is I would almost agree in real life that part of the reason Kenzie is champion today is because of Ella. And here's my thought process behind that. Kenzie, of course, was in the NWA before Ella Envy, where she worked as a face, young. I mean, because she was like 19 or 20 when she first started, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And so she was this young face, would wrestle against Camille. And we'd go, why is she wrestling against Camille? Well, I don't want to see her wrestle Camille anymore. And had a couple of stupid storylines where it was like she was the one getting suspended because somebody else did something. It wasn't making a lot of sense. And she didn't really cut a good promo. And then they started teaming her with Ella Envy, and they go, well, to go after the women's tag team champions. And they go, well, these ladies have been a tag team in other promotions, which I assume was maybe, Crossfire or whatever. But so, at least in that area, they had been going around as things. And, they started the initial thing where, Ella was heel, Kenzie was face. There was a little bit of tension between them until Kenzie finally turned heel. And then a lot of her style was mimicking what Ella was.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a disrespectful manner, but if you go back and you look at when Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty first started teaming, Shawn Michaels started mimicking Marty Jannetty. Look and style and swagger and all that. That was all Marty Jannetty. That's how he was before he teamed with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was just a young Texas kid. And so when they started teaming as the Midnight Rockers, Shawn Michaels adapted Jannetty's style. And you kind of saw that here. You saw that with Kenzie Paige adapted Ella's style. And so, yeah, I think obviously in ring, Kenzie's success is Kenzie.
Right.
She's putting in the work. She's doing what's necessary and what needs to be done. But the ability to get herself over, probably, from what I can see, came with a lot of aid and mentorship from Ella. And so, we'll give Jaden a chance here to talk because we were talking a little bit earlier with Mims and G's. How important is something like that? With the tag team where it's almost like one person comes in, they team together, they kind of take that person's style and eventually eclipse them.
Yeah, people forget that Marty was actually the one that was considered the star and the talented one. And Shawn Michaels was the young rookie with a lot of potential. And then look what happened. That happens actually more often than people realize. Nikita Koloff was teamed with Ivan and Crusher Khrushchev so he could learn on the job. And that's exactly what, he did, is picked things up on the job from Ivan and Khrushchev and picked up a lot of stuff teaming with them and kind of copying what they do in a little more intense kind of way. And that's something and then I would say, if you want to argue, while Ivan was a former WWF champion, most people would probably consider Nikita the bigger star. And while the Freebirds were already stars in the making, adding Buddy Roberts, that experience, who was actually meant to calm him down and did just the opposite effect, that's where rubbing off somebody when somebody's not always a good thing. But Buddy Roberts added a lot to the Freebirds, and you can see just how much better, especially Terry Gordy, got when he started working around with Buddy Roberts. And in a slight case of both people making each other better, watch the original, well, not the original Midnight Express, but the Mid-South Midnight Express of Loverboy Dennis and Beautiful Bobby. They actually took Jim Cornette under their wing, especially Loverboy Dennis, because he was the more experienced one. But I think Dennis and Bobby both picked up things from each other and made each other even better. So that's also something, if you watch it, that's what a good tag team does, though. They meld each other. They blend with each other. They learn from each other. They work off each other. They work with each other. That's what tag team wrestling is always its best at. And they make each other better. So that, I think that's something that Ella Envy just did. She made every tag team partner she had better. And now she has a chance to maybe show she could be better by herself.
Agreed. Hey, Mickey's in the chat. What's up, Mickey? I don't think Mickey's been on the show before in the chat.
Oh, boy.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. All right, so let's look. So after that, we get the NWA Women's World Championship match. Haley J versus Kenzie Paige. As Danny Deals would say later in the broadcast, Kentucky versus Tennessee. Haley J interrupts the introductions to proclaim herself the first real superstar of the NWA and says she's going to put an end to the Kenzie Paige era. Hollywood then goes on to say that she's going to belt collect the territories and will come back to power as the all champion. And I thought this was kind of interesting way to go about it. I mean, if you're the women's world champion, what do you care about the territory titles? If anything, if this is your plan, you should have went and got those titles first. That's neither here nor there. Sorry, I lost my place in my notes. Kenzie was victorious against Markova the last time she was in Dothan, Alabama at Hard Times. The crowd reacts positively to Kenzie, and by de facto, I don't know if it's because Hollywood Haley J is such a good heel, or the fact that Kenzie has been kind of in that face role in the past at Hard Times. She was treated as a face here, even so much as during the middle of the match, she's kind of reaching out to the crowd for support, which that's not wasted on me. Of course, that's good baby face type stuff. And for her to revert back to being a babyface might be good for the NWA. But the more as the match would start, it gets physical fast. First, with Kenzie landing some strikes and kicks, Haley J backs her off before dropping Kenzie on the second rope and uses that compromised Paige to connect with some cheap shots and connecting with like a leg lariat over the rope. Haley takes control of the match, and like I said, Kenzie kind of reverts to a babyface, reaching out to the crowd, getting that Ricky Morton style babyface heat. Haley seems to have a boot to counter every single move that Kenzie has in her offense. Every time Kenzie goes for something, she eats one of Haley J's boots. It gets really off the charts at some points in the match where both of them are just striking and not giving as much as they take, I guess is the best way to say it. It's like a Pier 6 brawl with both women exchanging strikes and kicks. But Jay takes control of the match with a big clothesline, does some ground and pound on Kenzie. And again, a common theme we see here, and I really didn't notice it until I'm just now reading my notes again, that Haley J also goes to the top rope and takes far too long to execute a move. And we get Kenzie going and stopping her with a big kick of her own. The two struggle on the top for control, but Haley J manages to get a power bomb, a big, impressive power bomb on Kenzie, but only gets a 2 count after giving that power bomb and a curb stomp. Haley J reaches for a loaded sock, this was kind of weird. Like she did it right in front of the referee. This flapjack or whatever you want to call it. The referee catches her, and while she's putting the weapon away, Kenzie's up, connects with a Kenzie cutter, and that's it. Another victory for Kenzie Paige. Haley J unsuccessful in becoming the women's world champion. And what I thought was mostly a good match, I think had a silly ending. But Kenzie still looked like Kenzie. Haley J didn't look bad in defeat, just looked like a little misfocused by trying to go for the weapon early. DK, your face looks like a sourpuss. What are you thinking?
Well, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this match. In general, I really enjoyed it. I thought both girls did well. A couple of sloppy moments, not necessarily botches, but a little bit of sloppiness.
Yeah.
And it happens. You can overlook that. I might have given the show a C if this had been a plain match that ended with somebody winning. But that thing with the sock really, it was like so out of nowhere. And so, I mean, it's not like she's been using, a slapjack to, beat her opponents. And so it just kind of came out of nowhere that she had one right in front of the referee. The ref, was like telling her, you don't want to be disqualified, or whatever, and taking it from her finally. And then while the referee's back is turned, Kenzie hits a clean move and covers her. And by now the ref's back and counts the count. And it's just kind of like, okay. It would have been something if she'd hit an illegal move or, if the ref couldn't have gotten, didn't get there in time or didn't notice, and maybe she kicked out the first time, but it was just like, nope, I'm going to do this ridiculously stupid thing that I've never done before, and then I'm going to get hit by the finisher clean and get pinned. And so, and these are when you have those moments of, everyone's like, Haley J. And I don't know if Haley's sticking around or not, but, why do I don't want to see that match again. Well, I've already seen Kenzie pin her clean. No problem. Because she did something stupid. And I don't know. So let's go back because I have a question for Jaden.
Okay.
So, Jaden, if you're wanting to make money off of a thing, off like a feud or a series or something like that, are clean pins in the first match a good thing?
No, generally not. It can be done, but it has to be done extremely right.
I will give one example where I think it did work because it went off, and that's when I was talking about Diamond Dallas Page and Randy Savage. But it was almost like a fluke. Page won, and you were going like, oh my gosh. And then it was like, okay, now Savage is going to take him seriously. Because he hadn't taken him seriously up until that moment. And that's
because they were also trying to make a star out of Dallas Page too, so that's why it worked. Haley J is already supposed to be a star, and now she can't beat Kenzie Paige even with a weapon. That means right now that that's showing that she's multiple steps below Kenzie Paige right now because Kenzie Paige just beat her cleanly, even though she even used a weapon. Well, so I think that's where the bad booking is coming into. That is, it did not do any favors for Hollywood Haley J. I mean, it did no favors for her, and I think that's why you need to have a reason to have a match. Sometimes it's a screw finish. If there's a clean finish, then the person needs to get their heat back. They need to beat her up, take her out, throw her around, get pissed off that she lost cleanly, and then hit her with a power bomb onto a step or a pile driver and have her carried out. Have her wear a neck brace for a while. Have a reason to have that rematch. It's just there's nothing now, and that's Billy Corgan's booking, which probably means she'll lose once or twice more than win the title from her.
You ain't kidding with that.
That never happens. Killer bees or king bees.
King bees.
Came in, lost, had a rematch and won. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that, and that was it. That was the show. And again, you gave it almost a, or what did you say? It was a D? D minus?
I gave it a D, but it was an F up until the last match. Because the first match was so.
I gave the show a C minus because I thought if you didn't have that first match, and the my biggest critique of this is last week's Power, the go home show to take us to Looks at Kill had this. The show ended with Brian Idol and Silas Mason face to face, nose to nose, TV time. That's how you ended the match. And that wasn't on this week's episode. And that was the best built the best I've ever seen Brian Idol was in that moment, not backing down from Silas Mason. The best Brian Idol's ever looked. Thrillbilly's going to Thrillbilly. I have no problem with that. But then.
And he's very good at it.
Yeah, he's great at it. He can sell me a ticket to a wrestling show. And that's the first time I've wanted to see Brian Idol wrestle. And the first time I've ever cared about seeing Brian Idol wrestle, and I don't even get it this week, or what are we doing? And I feel like Sam Stackhouse and Eric Smalls versus the Colognes could have been a YouTube exclusive. It could have been featured anywhere else on the card.
Could have never happened.
Yeah, the two matches that should have happened. We should have got the Kenzie Paige and Hollywood Haley J match, which for all intents and purposes still delivered for me, still gave me what I wanted. but I'm very disappointed that we didn't have that match. And if we had that first match, if we had Mason and Idol, I probably would have been about a B plus A, because I felt that the Mims match was strong. I felt like the women's world title match was strong. And if they had one more strong match, I would have been very delighted with that. But because I was so anti Stackhouse and Smalls versus the Colognes, I gave it a C minus.
I don't know how schools grade anymore. Of course, with my boys, A, B, C, D, F. It was based on the percentage. 90 and above was an A, 80 and 80 to 89 was a B, 70 79 was a C, 60 to 69 was a D, and anything under 60 was an F. And so if I were grading the matches, I probably would have given a B plus or so to the women's match. Probably would have given a B minus to Mims and Grimm's. Maybe a C plus, since it wasn't supposed to be a national title match. And so, you're talking like 88, maybe 80. And then you go to that tag team match. And the tag team match was such an F, 30%, something like that, that when you averaged everything together, you got like a 61. So, yeah, you got your D. But you probably could have had a B if you just left that off. Oh, the dog's chewing something.
Our pal Alliance Late Night said I'd give it a B minus. I can't count the booking against the in-ring performance. The homie sock wasn't played right.
Homie, don't play that. Homie the clown, don't mess around.
I remember Living Color. I just felt like again, and I don't blame you for your score, DK. Or I don't hold that against you. I see your point of view. I see your perspective. I did not like that tag match either, but I still feel like it was a pretty good show, all things considered.
By the way, Alliance Late Night, not grading the match by the booking and only the match or the card, not on the rest, only on the wrestling, not on the booking. It's kind of like watching a movie and grading the movie on the acting, but not on the script. Some of the people in The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker actually, or how about Jurassic World Dominion? Some of those people actually acted well, but just the entire script was the drizzling shit. So you can't say it was a good movie because the acting was great. It's just if the script's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I got to do the. It's a whole product, and so I have to grade the whole product. Yeah, I mean, you're right, but it's still got to factor into the grade, and so that's why I can say I thought Mims and Grimm's was good for the match that it was between the guys that were there, but I do have an issue with that. It was supposed to be a national championship match. If it had been a TV title match, then maybe you're looking at a B plus for that. But you got to look in ring is one thing, but I think even one thing we learned in wrestling, and I'm sure Jaden has some thoughts on this. One thing we learned in wrestling is what's going to sell me the ticket. And Jay was talking about, and in-ring's only part of it, because like Jay was talking about the Thrillbilly Idol confrontation. He goes, Thrillbilly can sell me a ticket. I've never, I don't like Idol, but man, I'm ready to buy a ticket to watch that because Thrillbilly has sold me on something. And, back in the days of the traveling NWA champion when there wasn't a lot of TV, and we're talking about the Dory Funk Juniors and even Jack Briscoe and stuff like that. You know, they were kind of boring people. You listen to them give promos or whatever, they weren't exciting. But they didn't need to be. They were the world champion. The person who, the challenger, the local challenger that was going to beat the champion, for all you fans out there, or in spite of all you fans out there if it was a heel, you know, they're the ones that sold the ticket. Talk me into the building. Who's going to talk you into the building? You know, I hear a lot of things about, well, what's going to main event WrestleMania? You know, there's always this thing. Well, you know, Punk's been in the main event, but it wasn't really the main event because it wasn't the last match. Or, you know, who's going on last? Who's the main event? The main event is what I'm paying money to see. And it doesn't matter if the first match on the card, the last match on the card, or in the middle. WWE used to put their main event on and then show 2 more matches, because that gave them time to develop the storyline and tell people what they were coming back for next month. Hey, after the crazy ending to that WWE title match between Backlund and Patterson or whoever, they're going to be back next week, you know, next month in a cage or a strap match or a no disqualification or whatever. So, yeah, the main event is what I'm paying to see. What I need on Power is that if I'm an ordinary Joe, not some, we are the Miserably Faithful. Why are we the Miserably Faithful? I'll let Jay explain that in a moment. But yeah, what are you doing to separate me, the mark, from my money? Hey, Jay, why are we Miserably Faithful?
For the record, DKM is not a mark. He's just using that analogy as, like, you know, the carny side of the business. How are you getting our dollars? And clearly, with this kind of booking, I don't feel like the NWA is concerned about my dollars. We're the Miserably. Whoa, let's try that again. Take 2. We are the Miserably Faithful, because despite how good or bad this show has been for the last 5 years, we're here watching it each and every week. We've been reviewing it, recapping it. We have been here for the highest of highs and, good Lord, the lowest of lows. I'm not saying that this product is unwatchable, but I'm saying there's parts of it that are really, really hard to watch. Seeing that tag team match this week made me question my fandom. And I said it earlier. Who is this booked for? Because I haven't seen a single person say anything positive about that tag team match with Smalls and Stackhouse versus the Clones. Our pal DKM said it made the Clones look weak, and by nature can't take them serious anymore. And again, I don't see Stackhouse and Smalls being a regular tag team. So why was this booked?
Well, they came again here in Texas, I think.
Oh. So again, who is this booked for? Yeah, did I pull that up or did you pull that up, DK?
I did, because I didn't want to forget it, and I would.
All right. Well, real quick, let's talk about that, because that kind of leads into the next question. But let's hide that comment. So in the finals for the Women's Oceanic Championship at the Rock and Wrestling Rager, the 6 on the beach, Natalia Markova defeated Amira Blair to become the Oceanic Women's Champion. And this is the second, or actually not the second, this is like maybe the 4th or 5th women's title that Markova currently holds. And I guess the first person I'm going to ask is Jaden. And to kind of echo the comments that were made by Noob, he said, you know, what do you think about Markova becoming the first ever women's Oceanic champion at the Jericho Cruise? Now, I'll preface it by saying, like, look, that's not a real title, right? Because we're not going to see that title defended regularly. At least I don't think so, because Jericho's Cruise is more of a novelty, not really a wrestling promotion. So even though that they've had championship matches at sea, that title belt really probably won't be defended at all, if any. The next cruise I think is next year in 2026. So, Jaden, how do you feel about Markova winning this title?
I assume she won it because she comes with 2 of her own flotation devices. But honestly, it's just one of those things. As there's so many belts. If you could go on to MD belts and talk to somebody, a guy. His name is Zen, and it's spelled Zane, but it's Zen, and order some belts from him. And you can get yourself a whole bunch of them, really nice ones. Their leather's getting better and their quality's pretty decent. Get a whole bunch of nice belts, and that's about and claim yourself as a champion for all these and take all your pictures. And that's what all these belts are worth nowadays. In the old days, championships used to actually mean something. If you were the United States junior heavyweight champion in the continental area, that was a big deal. That was a belt that had a lot of prestige and was held by a lot of champions and had some good matches and some history behind it. Most of these championships they are props, and that's what sucks about it. 'Cause people don't know. They think that you put a belt on somebody that's pushing them. No. Look at the NWA. There's a bunch of people that have belts on. They're not being pushed at all. In fact, they're being put over. They're being put under. And it's just all it is just people wanting to take that Ultimo Dragon picture and have all those belts on their shoulder because they mark out for that picture, which I did at the time too. That's all it is, and that's all those belts are. So yeah, it's a nice little publicity stunt for her. Maybe it'll get her some attention she deserves. Maybe she'll be picked up, somebody will see her and be picked up somewhere bigger, so she's not left in the wind, floating in the wind like in the NWA. Maybe it'll actually make the NWA do something with her. But honestly, it's about means as much as a belt buckle I bought at Cowtown. DK?
I'm not sure what he was actually asking in the question, but I'm going to take it a different direction.
Okay.
Like, what do I think about it? Like, they decided to put a title on her. Yeah, I mean, I think she's somebody worthy of having a title on, to put a title on. What do I think about the fact that the NWA so far has not put a title on her? Any of the 3? Probably a mistake on their side. They had her in a tag team with her. Anyone notice that what was her name? Taylor Rising, Triple H's daughter, or something like that. I don't remember. I'm sorry, Devin Dowling. Mercedes Moné currently has more belts than
Talent?
Yes.
Promo ability?
But
she doesn't have more belts than wigs.
Oh my God, dude!
Nobody has more wigs than her. But anyway, getting back to the idea. I mean, I think Markova probably needs to have a title in the NWA. We've been talking about it for a long time. Unless she herself just absolutely doesn't want to have one. Then
maybe she doesn't want to be accused of having favoritism.
Well, I've said that before. Sometimes some people who are on the top, they think the best person to put the belt on is themselves, and some people think that the last person that should have the belt is themselves. And we kind of see that with Idol. Idol doesn't. We know he's the kind of the national promoter and the NWA Chicago guy, which is, I don't know why they call it NWA Chicago when it seems to be more just like a national promotion. Hasn't run since October.
They actually have an event coming up.
Yeah, I think I saw it. But yeah, I mean, just is she somebody worthy of a championship? Yes, I think she is. What does that title mean? Like Jaden said, probably not a lot. What do most of Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, whatever her name is, titles mean? Really not a lot. And okay, if you want to have that, I suppose if I wanted to pay the money, I could get Mercedes Moné to be the IHWE Women's Champion. So,
well, and that kind of brings me in the chat. Sean Mega says, "Is she ready to dethrone Kenzie?" And I mean, that all depends, and that's kind of what was the next topic on hand, anyways. Is Kenzie's been women's world champion for now 540 days, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll pull up the actual number here right now. But she's, she beat Camille to win this title, and she's beating everybody who they've thrown at her, including Markova, Holly Hood, Haley J. She's defended against Max the Impaler. 530 days. She's defeated Tiffany Nieves. She's defeated Ella Envy. And Misa Kate, La Pescadita, Freya the Slaya outside of the NWA, Miss Star, Ruthie J, Danny Jordan outside of the NWA. There's no one really left on the roster. Now, of course, the roster's ever evolving, so we might see something else soon. But
I promise you, we're about to see something.
Chelsea Green has been very outspoken about how good she thought Kenzie Paige is. Chelsea Green, obviously the wife of Matt Cardona, spent some time in the NWA herself.
The longest reigning WWE Women's U.S. champion.
That's that darn tootin'. And so my next question is this, especially now that Camille has almost become invisible in AEW, is Kenzie ready for that next step? Are Kenzie's days numbered in the NWA? Can Kenzie succeed at that next level? And I'll ask you that question first, D-Cam. What are your thoughts on Kenzie Paige, her time as world champion, and is she ready to go to that next level?
I think she's had a good run as world champion. She hasn't had a great run as world champion, and it's not her fault. I think Camille had a better run because they brought in better opponents for Camille. And so, but just as far as being a strong, dominant champion, especially after another strong, dominant champion, I think she's done a good job. Now, you said she was 25 or 26, somewhere through there?
I'll double check. Kenzie Paige says she's 22 years old.
No, because Kylie just turned 21. And she's been around for at least 5 years.
That doesn't mean anything nowadays. She could be starting at 16.
Yeah, I went somewhere else. I went to her Wikipedia, born March 5th, 2002. That would make her 22 years old.
Very interesting.
She's still a young pup.
And I feel like her age is important. And here's the problem. If you move too big, you get lost. And I think that's something we've seen with Camille. Now, Camille's supposedly been out injured. I don't really remember what the injury was or whatever, but supposedly she's not cleared to, to wrestle. And so that was part of the reason they accelerated her leaving Mercedes Moné. That and Moné didn't want to share the spotlight. There is a risk of getting lost in some of these places. Now, if I were Kenzie Paige and I'd probably want to hold that NWA title somewhere into the late spring, early summer before, dropping it and starting my fade out of the NWA. And then if I were her, what I would be looking for is WWE ID status, and possibly looking at something like their Evolve show that they're going to be doing. And so I think that would be something good with her where she can get in and get more experience and get more time. 22 is so young. And, you know, one of the problems is you can burn out quickly. And I think we saw that with, what was her name? Paige in WWE. Is it Soraya that she's going by? Soraya. You know, I think we saw a little bit about that. I mean, by the time she was 26 or 27, you know, she had already had that neck injury and she would be out for a while and stuff like that. And now I don't even know if she can wrestle or not, if she's cleared, because she came back to AEW long enough to disappear again. And I don't know if there's a story behind it or anything, because I don't keep up. So if any of our AEW fans out there know what her status is. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to burn out too soon. And, you know, unfortunately, women also have, you know, what happens to her promotion if she starts having to get signed somewhere where there's a lot of commitment to being down in the performance center and, you know, and everything like that. So she has a lot of things to consider, including, does she want to run a promotion?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she doesn't, or maybe she does. And if she does, she may stick around the NWA for a while.
I will say 100% anybody that wants to run a professional wrestling promotion, there's something mentally wrong with them, especially if they continue to run it after the first couple.
No kidding. I certainly agree with that. I think there's something wrong. I think there's something wrong with you if you try to run one.
Notice how Jay doesn't have a wrestling promotion. Never.
Yeah, I help everybody else. That's why. I still think that's insane too.
Move to Texas.
Me?
No, Jaden.
Oh.
Instead of working for Dr. C, he can come work for me.
I heard you pay about the same.
Probably about 20% better.
Oh, great.
20% of zero is still zero.
I was waiting for somebody to say that.
The next question that Noob asked.
I didn't get the hot dog and the handshake like the guys do. And I'm the one handing out the hot dogs and the handshakes with the guys. Dr. Green's too busy.
I will give you what that one promoter did. You can go to the concession stand that has a hot dog, chips, and a drink, and you can get any 2 items for free.
I just can see Jaden with his lucha mask holding a bag of Doritos and a Coke Zero, walking around going, "Is this what I'm doing with my life?"
Hey, every time I get out of my car with a pizza, that's what I think.
Pizza sounds so good right now. Jesus.
Let me tell you. For
Lots of cheeses. Extra
for
cheeses.
For those of you who don't know out there, I kind of have like 4 jobs currently. My primary job is being retired. My secondary job is I do consulting on the side. I also have a secondary job of delivering pizzas every now and then because it gives me kind of some stability and regular, income.
And discount on pizza.
And discount on pizza, which is what's really important. And it is kind of the dream job in this. I never think about the place when I'm not there.
That's the best kind of job.
I don't leave there and go, gee, I wonder if they have enough drivers tonight. Gee, I wonder if there's enough pizza, dough made or done or whatever. I leave there and I never think about the place again. I work today. I'm off I'm off until like Monday or something like that. And it's like, I will never think about the place this weekend other than telling stories like this. I don't worry about it. I don't know. What's my favorite pizza? Okay, Devin, whenever I go into a pizza joint for the first time, I order a cheese pizza because if you can't make a good cheese pizza, you're screwed. Now, what's my favorite pizza to eat once I'm at a joint and I know that I like them? Whatever their all-meat pizza is. So, give me the pepperoni, the ham, the bacon, the sausage, the beef. So, sorry.
I'll actually choose a bunch of them. Like I always make sure they have a place that has a good white pizza too. And sometimes you can get a place that has a good white pizza that doesn't have a good regular pizza. But if you can find one that does both, then you have something really special. Then I go for the pepperoni to see what kind of pepperoni it is, because sometimes the pepperoni is so greasy, while it's absolutely delicious, my stomach doesn't actually like it, but I love it. It's one of those one-way relationships. And then I usually will go for a meat lover fourth, and I'll usually keep the ham off because I really just don't like ham.
I only like ham when it's with everything else.
Really? Yeah, I could eat it, but if I had my option, I would just get extra with something else.
I could tell you a story that would cause people to stop eating pepperoni.
I'm sure there are a lot of them.
No, please, I don't want to hear that. I used to, when in my younger days, I used to work at a pizza place, and my two primary responsibilities were grating cheese and delivering the pizzas and third one was pouring beer. And that was my favorite job because I would always eat on the job, and they would save the wings from the buffet earlier in the day, and I'd eat those all gross and super buffalo-y later, and I'd take the garlic cheese bread and pour barbecue sauce and throw pepperonis on it, and it was some of my happiest days were working at Home Run Pizza, and I miss it.
You start off with grating cheese, and you've been grating on us for ever since.
Better than grinding on you, that's for sure.
Well, that's what DK's fourth job is.
Oh my God.
He's an exotic dancer.
If you don't know what my fourth job is, then you're not paying attention. So anyway, I like blondes. They are my favorite.
I do. Hey, it's something we got in common.
That's probably the problem. I married a brunette.
Well, that's why you should have married a blonde. James H. Jackson said, the doctor said it was a good day where I can stretch it out. I'm close to being completely cleared. And that was back in like December. Figure 4 says at the Grammys, a singer during her acceptance speech called out record companies to provide a living wage. And I thought of the stories I've heard about wrestling pay. Yeah, I mean, look, in a lot of the entertainment industries, those on top make the most and those on the bottom don't. And in pro wrestling, like when you think of somebody in the WWE or an AEW, yeah, those people are making an amazing living. But again, it all trickles downhill. And when you get to the independents, that whole hot dog and a handshake is usually because the wrestling promotion itself doesn't make enough money to sustain a payroll. And I would argue that maybe that type of wrestling promotion shouldn't be in business. But again, it gives some people an opportunity to kind of break in. And if you learn to work and you learn to hustle and you go through those hardships of that hot dog and a handshake to getting the dates where you're selling merchandise and you're making money, also too, the thing about independent wrestling, and I don't blame the promoters, I blame the wrestlers themselves, is that they look at everything as like, oh, this is my next date. This is my next date. And what they really need to look at is, I am a brand. I am a business. I am an entertainer, and my company is to make money. So if I'm going to wrestle, cool. Maybe I do take that lesser payday to be seen by more people, but I'm sure as hell going to have a suitcase full of T-shirts or foam fingers or lucha masks or something to sell, something tangible, so that when the fan walks away from that experience with you, they have an opportunity to put money in your hand. And I understand that it can be hard to kind of come up with capital to start this and to buy shirts and stuff. But you can start small. You could start off with a Pro Wrestling Tees website. You could start off with a Streamlabs merch website and work and work and work and get your name out there. you like Matt Cardona, who I don't really like. Matt Cardona, I'm not a big fan of his, but he said something that is so like disappointingly true, that 60% of the talent that's out there don't even sell merchandise, and that's insane to me. One of my best friends in the business, Ruby Reyes, one time I was with her at a show, and she put down little cards, baseball cards, a free thing. She put one down in every chair before she went to the back for the night. And that moment, whoever picked up that card had an opportunity like, hey, I have something tangible from this wrestler, and I've built this connection now. A lot of those people came to her with those cards and wanted her to sign it, wanted to take pictures, wanted to buy T-shirts, and guess what she did? All of it. And it's something so simple, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. And if you can do that, you're building that established relationship with your customer. And this is business. This isn't. You could be selling. You could be a character in almost anything, and if you can connect with your audience, that's how you make money. So, like, I don't feel bad for wrestling talent who aren't making a great living, unless they have exercised every opportunity and still can't come up with it. Then I feel bad.
Well,
I'm going to get this one in real quick, DK, and I actually want you to steal this idea. I actually heard of a wrestler who made scratch-off cards that say, get 10% off of any one merchandise item, buy one merchandise item, get 150% off, get 20% off, get a free autograph picture with purchase, stuff like that, and handed out those cards to people, and that person sold a lot of merchandise. People love coupons.
They do. That in sales. I mean, it's been proven when J.C. Penney lowered their prices and did away with sales, their sales sank. Even though they were actually selling stuff cheaper than they had been when they would sell it on sale, the people hated it. I go to Penny's for the sales. I remember there's going to Kohl's shopping.
Kohl's Cash.
Yeah. And, every time I walked out of there, it told me I saved more money than I spent.
Yeah.
The receipt. Oh, you bought a $40 shirt or a $45 shirt for $21. It's just like, well, looks like a $21 shirt. But I will say this, and I've said this before, because this was actually something pole jumping I disagreed about back in the day. And I'd said, if you're going to an independent wrestling show, don't just bring money for your ticket. Bring money to get something from concessions, and bring money to get something from a wrestler or two wrestlers or whatever. I'm not saying the only thing that I think you really should buy is something from concessions. And the reason is concessions sometimes is done by the building, and that's where they can make some money. And so if they're making money off that, they're more likely to want to have the wrestling guys back. Or even if for the wrestling show, it helps make up any difference if there's not enough people. So just always take money for concessions. And look, you can walk around, and if you don't like any of the wrestlers and you think they all have bad attitudes and they suck, and you don't have to buy anything.
Yeah.
But if you had a favorite wrestler that night, or or there's somebody there, or favorite wrestler from the last show you went to, get a picture. I don't care if you keep it or not. You know how many pictures I've gotten? If I had every picture that I've ever bought at an indie wrestling show, I could wallpaper my room.
I got one of Dave Dahl. I used to keep the rats away.
I use it as a dartboard.
Yeah, I wouldn't damage the darts that way.
So yeah, but anyway, as a fan, if you're wanting to support independent local wrestling, be prepared. And of course, now someone's going to have to do with the price of the tickets too. If they're selling tickets I was looking at this one promotion, and they were selling tickets for like $50. And I was looking at the list of talent on it and going, no. And I don't know what it is. Well, I do, but I know 3 years ago, a lot of local main event guys. So guys that were main event, but local to the area or traveled into that area a lot, sometimes they were lucky to get $100. And so if you're based here in Fort Worth and at a show in Fort Worth, you can get $100. That's not bad. If you're coming up from Houston, and they do, and you're getting $100, by the time you fill your car twice with gas, once coming and once going,
you're negative $50.
Yeah. So just do remember that, to support these people. We say pay them a living wage, but I promise you, I can't pay out more cash than I have. I'm not a charity.
Yeah.
When I run when I run a show, I'm not running it so that I can make sure wrestlers have money. My goal is to pay the bills and have a little bit left over to maybe save up, and so I can get a name once a year or something like that, or a bigger name once a year. But I'm not out there to fleece anybody, but I'm not a charity. I'm not a pro wrestling charity. The reason some of those guys are paying the 2 out of 3 because that's literally all the money they have.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. I'm
not Dr. C. Dr. C's rich. He's a doctor after all.
He's cheap is actually probably more an accurate term.
Well, that's common with rich people. He's rich and he's cheap. So I can't pay the big bucks that he pays.
He opened up his wallet one time and all the presidents screamed, "I'm blind, the sun, I'm blind."
I think we're getting to a point now where maybe this is a good stopping spot, unless there's something else that you would like to plug, promote, or push.
Well, was everybody done with their opinions on Kenzie Paige?
Kenzie, Kylie, Kurt Angle, whatever.
I think we did enough.
Okay.
Yeah, he wants to get out of here. We're reaching that 10 o'clock hour.
I'm hungry.
I told him to pee before the show, but he wouldn't listen to me.
You did no such thing.
I did too. Whether you heard it or not, it's not important.
Thanks.
All right. You got anything to promote, DK? Your website?
I have my website to promote, ihwetx.com. Not a ton of stuff on there, but one thing that is on there is a link to our merchandise section at Pro Wrestling Tees. And like we're talking about, hey, if you guys, want to support something, I merchandise, and that goes for me too. If you want me to be able to put it on a show at the same weekend as, or around the same weekend as
WrestleMania.
No, all
in,
or whoever's coming here to Texas. I need money. There's a lot of competition. A lot of places are already booked for that weekend. And a lot of wrestlers are already booked for that weekend. So, that's one way you can help. Buy a shirt.
Buy a shirt.
And
I need to make that a drop on here.
In the Fort Worth one, that's a pretty logo. So,
okay, yeah, I am thinking about pizza. No, I don't have a milk jug. What do I have underneath here?
A Dubby cup.
You pee into a mask? Wow. Anyway,
it's got holes in it, man.
So Jaden, I hear Dr. C has been extremely busy recently.
Yeah. People really underestimate how hard it is to get on the phone and call places and email places and talk to places and do what you need to do to get this going. So the next dog event is coming up just a little over a week away. It's going to be Saturday night, the 15th of February at Monmouth University. You're going to see the main event of Biggie Biggs and Enzo Amore teaming up to take on main event Michael Mars and Justin Carino. Also, former WWE superstar Tank Abbott will be there. ECW original Jamalino and Fallah Bah will be in action. So that's a loaded up card from top to bottom. You also see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Champions, the War Devils of Dylan Mesh and Daredevil Dave Dahl. You'll see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Champion Breaker Morant, and you'll see the World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion David Goldie. All this and more. Make sure you check out the YouTube page because it'll eventually be there. But if you go to Monmouth University, it's free for you. It's at the Asekin Hall at Monmouth University, the second floor, which I just found out about recently. And boy, my ring crew is going to hate me and Dr. Zirconium for that because I just found out and I have to tell them because Dr. Zirconium doesn't like to play heel, so I have to do it. But yeah, that's October. That's February 15th at Monmouth University. You're going to see that big event, so make sure to keep an eye out. And check it out because it will be on the YouTube page. Next, on March 15th, the Nerd Force Fan Fest at Rowan University, the same place where we run our Rowan events. So it'll be a Nerd Force Fan Fest, and that again is 3/15, which is March 15th. You'll see on that one, it'll be a table. Dog will have a table, be participation. We'll be also probably buying a bunch of lightsabers and other cool stuff that's there. And we'll have some dog stuff to sell, and some of the wrestlers will have stuff to sell. And also, there's going to be a promo contest where the winner gets to cut a promo against a dog wrestler, and they do a promo battle against each other. So make sure you take part of that. It's going to be really a lot of fun. I can't wait for that one. Again, that's at Rowan University. Nerd Force Fan Fest. Easy for me to say. Going back to Rowan University on the 17th of April. That's going to be Rowan After Hours WrestleMania. And that's going to be headlined with David Goldie, if he's still World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, defending against Donovan Dijak of the WWE. You'll also see our current NWA superstar Wrecking Ball Ligursky, former WWE superstar and Ring of Honor superstar Tank Tolan's going to be there. The MLW superstar and a guy whose new gimmick I actually like a lot more. He's going to be there. It's I wish I could think of his name. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he works for MLW, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. But it's a loaded up card. Also, the Dog Tag Team Championship will be on the line. The World Wrestling.
Alex, that Dijak?
No, Donovan Dijak's in the main event. I'm trying to think of his name. Alex
Kane.
Alex Kane. Thank you, Alex Kane. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but he's going to be there, and I look forward to that a lot too. He's so good in the ring. And you're also starting to see the Dog Tag Team Championship will be on the line. The Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship will be on the line. And the World Wrestling Grand Prix Women's Championship will be on the line. As you see, the WWGP Women's Champion Valerie Verman defending against former WWE NXT superstar, the Notorious Mimi. And that's going to be something I think is going to have a lot of people excited. I can't wait till that shows up on the YouTube page because that'll do really well, I'm sure. And I'm sure DK's already thinking of comments he could say about their booties. And then after that, just a couple of days later, you're going to see Dog at the South Jersey Geek Fest. There's going to be another comic convention, and it's got a nerd fest, like a nerd type thing going with like lightsabers and Star Wars and Marvel and all that stuff. And this has been a long time thing now. It's become a big event in South Jersey. So the South Jersey Geek Fest, we're going to have a ring there, and we're going to be doing pretty much all day wrestling. So you're going to see wrestling there most of the day while the South Jersey Geek Fest is going on. You're going to see, dog wrestling. Various wrestlers are going to be there. I know Breaker Morant's going to be there. Biggie Biggs is going to be there. Unfortunately, Dave Dahl will be there. Silver Lobo, Vinny the Fixer. So you're going to see a bunch of different wrestlers at the South Jersey Geek Fest. Again, that's actually says 4/17, but that's actually supposed to be 4/19, which is a Saturday. The South Jersey Geek Fest will have wrestling action there all day. And so if you go to the Geek Fest, you get to see free wrestling, dog wrestling too, as top of it. So that's something really awesome I can't wait for. And then the big announcement.
Real quick. Maybe if you give me some graphics, I can make a carousel video while you're talking about this.
Okay. A carousel video was actually a great place to get videotapes and video games when I was a kid. But I will do so. And then finally, on June 28th, we're coming back to the Sacred Heart Church and Sacred Heart School as part of that church. Dog wrestling is coming back to Sacred Heart. Right now, there's nothing signed that's of significance that I can announce, but we're coming back to the Sacred Heart Church. If you want to come to see Sport Dog, that's the event you want to go to. I believe already signed. I know I think Biggie Biggs is signed. I believe David Goldie's going to be there. Unfortunately, probably Dave Dahl will be there, but he'll be bringing Dylan Mesh, and he'll probably be bringing Connor the Flag Boy with him. But yay! But there's no big matches signed yet. It was announced. It's actually the first time anybody's hearing about it. I'm putting it exclusively here on the Alliance Guys podcast. So Sacred Heart Church, that's going to be a big event. We're also been talking with coming back to Rowan College of Burlington County. It looks like that's going to happen in the fall. We're also working on something with Westchester University in Pennsylvania that might happen in the fall. There's also something going on with Stockton University, so I have no idea. There's no date set to that or any time frame that they're working on that. And there might be, without any details, there might be a whole little state park fair type thing going on, a 5-day event where they'll have wrestling spattered around throughout the day for a 5-day period. So you got a lot of chance to see Dog, and this is going to be. I don't know what it is on the Chinese calendar, but right now it's the Year of the Dog here for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators.
That's a lot. Well, I'm going to say thank you guys for watching our live stream. We'll do this every Thursday. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, talking some wrestling. We'll be back here next week. Of course, as the programming note dictates, the other Alliance guys will not be here on Sunday, but they will be returning the following Sunday to bring you more of the other Alliance guys content. Of course, your boy Jay Cal will be doing the pre-party this upcoming Tuesday, and we'll be back here next week. If you enjoyed this live stream, please give us a thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. All that good stuff helps the algorithm. It helps us be seen by more people on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitch, and all that other stuff. And then, of course, if you want to financially support the live stream, of course, we do have merchandise available. You can scan that barcode right there on the screen, the QR code, and that'll take you to our merchandise site. That'd be really appreciative. Luthez wants to remind you guys that today is National Pro Wrestling Day. If you want to celebrate the day, I recommend watching pro wrestling. That's the best way to do it. And then last thing is Double D wants to know, Jaden, did you have that written down in front of you, or was that right off the dome?
That was right off the dome. I don't write things down. I'm never prepared. I just say things that come to my mind.
Amazing.
Trust me, he just says things that come to his mind.
It gets me in a lot of trouble. By the way, real quick, pick your winner of the Super Bowl. Jay?
Chiefs.
TK?
Chiefs.
I'm going with Taylor Swift's team too. So looks like it's unanimous at the Alliance guys.
We're all Swifties. You should see our Spotify playlist. It looks like we only listen to Taylor.
Tim is going to disown each and every one of us. All right, guys. Until
He's
then,
Canadian.
You at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.